Okay, well, I mean, on that note, I think we're 6 minutes in, and I think that people are going to come through generally. I think it's this point or one point or another. But I just want to say hi to Munir and Tamron. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for jumping in. So, we really are, if you read the notice that came up from the WGSA, you'd know that we really want to take this idea of collaboration, which we spoke about in the previous the previous session. We really want to take this idea and make it into something concrete. We really want the case that we would love to create something that allows for individuals to express their own stories, but combined together forms a platform for us to send stories out there, stories that are originating from this group, and stories that which we can, I won't say control the quality, but at least ensure that there's a base level of good storytelling that we can then present to anyone else who's out there. And really, it's coming off the basis of this great network of people that we've come together with. As you know, Gavin, and we have Kate as well, and of course myself, Tavi. So we really think that this could be an evolution of our storytelling, because we've been traditionally restricted by having to have high budget stuff to represent South African films and South African series. And that has stifled a lot of voices that didn't really have an opportunity to create something that was fresh, unique, exciting, and more importantly, not slavish to Hollywood tropes, not slavish to other countries' forms of storytelling, but things that could really be authentically South African. So we've gone back and we've reviewed everything that was mentioned in the previous meeting as to how we can make things. We can maybe make a film that actually got different parts of it that are made by different filmmakers. Also, the idea of a 2 to 5 minute short film series, at least, that we could package together as one feature film. And really, what's coming through is that these are really interesting ideas, but on one end, we might have something that's not going to quite launch the careers of the writers in the group. And on the other end, we have something that might be far too daunting for beginner filmmakers to be jumping into. So something that's in the middle, something that allows you as a creative a very good amount of time to create something, knowing full well that it's going to be part of a framework of projects that's going to be, put out there and possibly engaged with in a very serious manner. That's something that we think that is really needed. And what Gavin is going to present to you is what we think is the possible avenue for this going forward. And really, it's going to be a very collaborative thing. We're going to hear back from you, and we're going to create this project together. This is not something that we are, necessarily saying we're the leaders or whatever on this. Really, everyone is going to be a part of the process. But we, at some point or another, do need to find out who's going to be ensuring perhaps an administrative start to the project. So I'm going to obviously hand over to Gavin right now, who's going to walk us through the beginnings of this idea. And then you'll have Kate and I discussing further ideas, jumping in, clarifying some things, and also adding some levels that you might find very interesting, so that we're able to fully flesh out this topic and fully flesh out this project for you. And then, of course, you guys will come back and speak to us about what you think about it. So without further ado, Gavin.
I'm also just going to ask Kate if you want to add anything before I start. I think. Okay. Because also, okay, so I won't dive straight into this idea, because at the moment we've got fewer people than we've had for any call by some way. And if I'm going to sort of outline the idea, I would love it if there were just a few more people. But I will preface that with the fact that this kind of all arose from the call last week. And when we started the call, I was quite curious about how people felt about collaboration. And then we went into this thing where people seemed very hungry for it and were excited to do something. And we were pondering these other ideas. So, I just want to talk about collaboration for a minute. And on that note, I'm also going to say hey to Tamron, who's actually my oldest collaborator. And thank you for joining the call.
Thanks, Gav.
We've been working together one way or another for about 11 years. I mentioned her on the last call and how we connected. But that's the thing about collaboration, is either it is, good because the interpersonal dynamics are good, or it falls apart. And there has to be something that everyone gets, and it has to fit into people's lives, and that's also very challenging with film. And if we were to do something like this, in some sense it would be a big project, and it would almost also be like a startup. And I've been involved with like quite a few startups, and again, it gets down to relationship. And I've also had like quite a lot of experience with communities and community efforts. And again, it just gets down to relationship, because essentially when you work together, sooner or later stuff comes up. And people's willingness to put the ego aside and just work through it and just make it about the work and get through whatever comes up is absolutely critical to actually having a successful anything. And it felt like there was a resonance in the call, because we're all in the same position. We all kind of have been expressing our frustrations with the filmmaking system as such. We all would very much like to be making more than we are, and we also like to be making quality, and so forth. And as we spoke last week, it's either big collaboration or big capital. And I've kind of chased both things over my career, and it's quite a magical thing if it happens one way or another. So I'm was there putting this out, and as Tobias says, it's not about us being leaders. It's there's a group idea surfacing here, and if it is going to happen, then it would really depend on us all bringing to the group whatever we could. And what I think would make it interesting is that everyone who's on this call is a professional at some level in their career, and between us we are mostly wearing quite a few hats, and on the call are mostly, I believe, writer actors, writer directors, and writer producers. And we each have wide networks, or not so wide, but most of us like quite wide networks locally and internationally. And probably, collaboratively, we could probably certainly develop, make, and hopefully sell what we created. But doing all those things, no matter whether you're doing it alone or as a group, is challenging and takes work. If we had good flow, it would be much easier to do it as a group. And when it came time to figuring out, well, what would be a workable suggestion, which I will dive into now because it seems this is it for the moment. I was thinking very much, firstly, well, what would actually, be fun for me, because and would work for me, because obviously we all, as filmmakers, generally have many gigs and do a lot of work trying to get work, and time is very precious. And if one's going to get into a big project, it really has to make sense. And so I did want, my curiosity is not whether we can make things, it's whether we could create a collaborative effort that would allow us to change the power dynamics from being capital driven to creative driven, where we could take power over distributing and creating content that we like, because as a group we could have all the resources to do so. And I guess long term, and it's that, and for many years that's kind of been a hope in my heart that one day we could get there. It's something I'm quite cynical about now. So this is kind of my pitch, but whether we do it or not, I guess will partly evolve over the call, because also at the moment, there's just these few people, but maybe these are just the few people who then would be kind of have their hearts most in it. Perhaps.
Sorry, Gavin, just want to say that maybe it's also because of load shedding, because I know in my side, on Johannesburg side, a lot of people are getting shedded in the evening around this time. So it might be that some of the people don't have access to power. Small thing.
That's a good point. But whatever the reason, this is here. Okay, so the idea I came up with was this. What if we did not 2-minute shorts, but 22-minute shorts that are long enough to tell a good story with, but that would be super contained, that we could do 80% in one location on 3-day shoot with minimum actors, and one day offering everyone the opportunity to do exteriors or other locations for one day. And partly if I look at like 48-hour film festival competitions, where like the local one, you're making about a 10-minute short, and you've got 2 days to do development, post and shooting. but we could we would need to make it very flexible so that people could kind of be in production and do development more or less in their own pace, but like within some contained deadlines, so that one, we're not all shooting at the same time, because we might well need to share equipment and share personnel, but that there's some flexibility that one can follow one's life schedule to do it when you're ready. So I had been thinking that if we spend about 3 months in the development of the scripts, and it's the theme for them, which would link them and would make it possible to sell it as a series, or alternatively as a series of shorts for streaming, episodes, because 22 minutes is obviously the half an hour TV slot, and it's a good length for individual episodes, however you're releasing them. Would be to challenge everyone to come up with a short on the topic of COVID craziness, interpret as you will. And, it's not a subject that's getting a lot of certainly professional treatment at the moment. I've seen, very few stories, almost like all the stories that I've come across actually been developed since COVID started, all kind of take place when COVID's finished, or like we're ignoring COVID, or like there was no COVID. And, no one in the films are running around in masks, and no one's going through COVID. But obviously, if we were to release that even in the next year, it's still a super hot thing where, which will touch base whatever happens, which will, be relevant. And if it's coming from the voices and perspectives of a whole bunch of South Africans from all different backgrounds and places and experiences, it would be interesting in itself. It allows for stories that people can that they can connect with, that is relevant, but it also can be, contained very easily. A few people's in a shop or in a house or anything. I think people would need to have access to their principal location as a condition of the challenge. Something that you can use easily, and others could, if they have locations people you can use, can put into the pot and could create, our stories with those in mind. We could also find out ahead of time which actors might want to be participating and write for them. And in that, I think there's a lot of room for like all sorts of genres. One could have I'd love to see a horror film about COVID, personally, and comedy or tragedy or whatever, but there's a lot of emotion in it, and there's a lot of personal material to draw from. And I would just ask that people don't be religious about it and don't feel the need to be PC, and just, tell their truth. And I think then we could get like a series of interesting, saleable 22-minute shorts. And then, it depends on the quality of what comes up in the end. But once we have that, we could write in links and turn those, like the 5 best into a feature, like 4 rooms. Or we could, do various, there'd be so many ways we could package them and release them. And in a group like this, there'd be a lot of resource to distributors and creative people that might have ideas about it. Teresa, have I given the gist of it?
Yeah, you have actually, because the whole idea behind this is that it being the perfect length for a half-hour episode release would be, something that's very digestible for South Africans. And also it would be strength in numbers, because you sell something like that to a distributor, or even post that to something, like an SVOD or anything like that, and they think that would be like a sweet spot for them to have, a new story every single episode. If it was a longer form, then it'd be very difficult to get audiences to buy into, it needs to be an hour long. Then every story is going to be different, and every cast is going to be different. I don't know if I could actually sustain interest in it as a result. So it's a perfect amount of time to be allowing what we hope as the expression of intent that we have for this project. And also the whole idea about it being smaller, contained, is really important. And 3 months for development, I think, is very sound, because I think just in this, from the people I'm seeing over here, I think everyone over here is a professional filmmaker at some kind or another. So 3 months development is for a 22-minute episode or short film, if you want to put it down to that, is quite a good amount of time. It's something that will allow flexibility of ideas, and also because of the fact that it's You know, the theme being COVID craziness, and it being really contained to something that you know, a couple of actors, couple of locations, maybe 1 or 2 locations. It allows those kinds of restrictions allow for very creative solutions to come through. You're going to find yourself in a situation where you have to create something that's been hanging around with us for 18 months and create a narrative for that and create a visual feast for that. You know, and I think that if I'm looking here in this group, 8 or 9 different stories about COVID craziness, and it being 8 or 9 different very personal stories with very personal expressions, it's going to have a very interesting collection of forms for anyone to engage with. It's something that hopefully people will find to be personable, very relatable, and also what I would think is very entertaining. It'll go up and down, up and down. You'll laugh here, you'll be frightened here, and you might find some very real emotional resonance by the end of it. So I think that it's perfect. I think that it's definitely something that I would definitely love to be a part of.
I'll
Kate, what
also,
do you think?
oh, sorry.
Yes.
Well, I will just also mention, because I just want to make sure that I had given the critical information. But then if we did do that, I would mention that we would use these calls and also offer some space outside of that to, again, support each other collaboratively. So I would, if we are in development, we could turn some of these into, like, okay, story design will be one day, scene or whatever else, wherever we're at in the process, we could, you know, just give insight and feedback around that, and then also make some space then to workshop, because I would certainly want to ensure that every person who goes forward into the script stage has a really good idea. And then again, once people are writing, to be available to help them figure out any challenges that they have. And depending on the number of scripts, I'd very happily even, you know, workshop it with them and help people polish and do all sorts of things, whatever's needed to make sure that the scripts are really good. And then I would hope that once we start shooting, the directors amongst us, or if people have DOPs available, you know, could also again support the people who don't have those skills to do it. And I think we'll have a cross section of skills. So, you know, Munira was very kind to offer equipment for the folk in Cape Town. And you know, there will be some people, you know, who don't have equipment. Some people do have equipment. With all these things, you know, I just think as a group we can probably fill it out so that if we support each other through the process, the goal would be to support each other to make really good quality work and to get to the end of the process and actually deliver something. And then again, to support each other to sell whatever's needed. And I still feel, so if we would decide to do that, then I would say for each of us to basically take the next 2 weeks before the next call to recruit allies and see, you know, as a carrot, like if there's no DOP amongst us, is there a DOP who wants a film written for them and directed, for them to direct, and would they then support others? You know, we could do that. I'm sure there's enough writers who maybe don't want to direct, who just want to write, who we could rope in, and perhaps like somewhere around 15 projects would be like a goal, and keep a few as carrots to fill out, you know, whatever skills we're missing. Sorry, Kate.
Yeah, what did I have to add? The writer's room, you know, the workshopping of the scripts, that's a very important part of it. And then I would like to be able to potentially direct my own project, but I'm going to do that much shorter we spoke about first, but I literally have no directing experience. I wouldn't want to ruin if I had a good script, ruin it with bad directing. So I would really be interested in partnering with somebody who would want to be a director, and we can look, you know, in that way collaborate as well, so that we learn from one another. So if, like you were saying, Gavin, if there is somebody who is a DOP who's wanting to direct, and maybe they've got a concept, but their script writing skills aren't so good, then they partner with the script writer to help their script level up, you know. So I think there's all those different ways of collaborating. So where I don't have strengths and skills, I can offer what I am strong in, and in exchange for somebody else who's strong in something else. I think that's a very big, you know, that could be a very empowering part of the collaborative process of collaboration. And then, like I was saying, you know, everybody else who doesn't know this, I've just been basically for the last month, I've been attending the London Screenwriters Festival online, attending sessions sort of from 8 to midnight every night, and got to hear incredible filmmakers from around the world talk about their work, and producers and directors and screenwriters, and be part of a screenwriting group. And one of the talks was by this, and his name's just slipped my mind right now, but he makes really low budget films that are like really, they're often like B films, you know, but they've done it for 8 years. He made no money until he got his rights back on his films, and then started being able to sell his films, I think, what is it, through Amazon, which you can sell. Anyway, but basically he spoke a lot about how to make films on very, very low budgets, and to be inspired by by locations. Like if you could find a free location, then write your story to suit that location. So to approach things from a different point of view. So don't go like, okay, I'm going to write the story and then look for the location, and then you can't find the location that's suitable, or the locations that's going to cost you. So go around where are locations that you can film it. And then he was like saying on one film, obviously he's got a network of filmmaking friends, and if they had an expensive location or an expensive scene, they'd see how many of them could use that same location and shoot in between each other. And then they had to have an explosion in one of his films. So the other film that needed an explosion, and they filmed it from a different angle. So they both filmed the exact same explosion at the same time, but from different angles, and cut the costs that way. And they could only do one explosion, but both films got to have the explosion, but from different angles, and that's how they saved money. But so that was very interesting, hearing his inventiveness in approaching making a film from very different, literally different angles. And that idea of using the same cast for a lot of there was there was a sort of an anthology or concert series, and I don't know if it was on Amazon or what, but it was basically taking the Russian royal family, and they retold that story over and over, and in all different locations and settings and timelines, but with the same cast of characters. So that was also very interesting. It's like working with a core group of actors. Say now for the 3 Cape Town projects. Yeah, I think I'm rambling. I think I've said what I have to. I might think of something else just now, but yeah, it's going, for me, it's going to be about being inventive with what I know, and then relying on other people to share. I will share my knowledge and expertise, and relying on other people to collaborate with me to share their knowledge and expertise. That's it.
Thanks, Kate. I actually think that it wasn't Jason Blumhouse that was at the London Screen. I mean, I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but he also had that as a way of making films, making very contained films that would be of a very certain budget cap, and trying to tell effective stories through those, and through that, presenting it to the audience, and the audience buying in. That would allow him to keep making films using that model. And of course, Jason Blumhouse has upscaled. He's made some of the biggest hits recently, some of the biggest horror hits recently, and has changed the game over and over again. Mark Duplass, same thing, So I think that there's definitely people who are operating in this sphere, and I think that this is something that we should be jumping into as well with this group, with this project, with this proposal that Gavin has mentioned. So I think that it's definitely something we should be jumping into. You mentioned that even though you've never directed anything before, you'd still want to direct your own work. Now I think there's going to be quite a few people who will have that same sentiment and will be very worried about directing something for the very first time. So I think perhaps it might be of use to maybe at some point or another find a directing mentor, someone who would be able to coach a first-time filmmaker through the process of trying to make a film. If that's something that people would be open to, I'm pretty sure we can find someone. I have access to a couple of directing, my mentors really, who have helped me come through this journey. And I think that they would be very interested. Time for them is probably going to be the biggest thing. But I think further down the process, a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months into it, I'm pretty sure I could ask one or two of them to come through and be part of the call, and also to have one-on-one conversations with people who are making their films and want to be the directors of them. And I'm pretty sure with the level of networks we have over here, we will find DOPs. I have someone in mind already. We will find access to resources. And of course, we've discovered that there's these two bases when it comes to this project: the peeps who are in Joburg, the peeps who are in Cape Town. Now that's going to be very much the physical production of the films, but not the processes before. We have, of course, Zoom. We have all of these things that we can share ideas and share experiences, and also critique, and also constructively critique each other's works. So when it comes down to the actual nitty-gritty of the production side of things, I'm pretty sure we'll find solutions coming through very easily. So, Gavin, I think that's from my side. I don't really have anything to say other than those things.
Yeah, well, I think let me just add a final word, and let's open up to the group. So Mbonaseni, you just missed, I think, the actual pitch. So I'll nutshell it for you a little bit before I turn over. But before I did that, I guess I just wanted to mirror back what you guys are saying, because for me, that is I think the promise, and I think the hope in doing a project like that is that whatever happens the first time, by becoming and creating the space to have an ongoing proper collaboration, we do create a space to really learn how to support one another. So then, it can be that, okay, we have some script, and, 3 people to use the same location, and we can build a database of locations. We can build a database of actors who want to work for collaborative ownership, and same for DOPs, because essentially that would need to be kind of the model, that it's owned by all the people that actually make the thing. And that, maybe when we sell it, everyone gets a salary, plus then there's, shares for your role, or whatever it is. I mean, we'd have to also spend time figuring out, what's fair and how to do practicalities, but it could evolve organically as we actually did the thing, and it would evolve organically. And I think what the key point here is that the expertise, insight, and experience is all here in this group and amongst our networks. So also I have, if we do go forward with this, and I had a 2-week thing to rope people in, I would definitely try my partners in Glavu in Joburg, or 2 also directors who have access to lots of equipment and so on. There's other people. I mean, there's lots of people. I've got a huge network. Many people who would benefit and be interesting, and who are also interested, and who still on themselves trying to look for new models of doing things, because everybody in this industry, no matter how great the level of their success is, are all suffering from this thing where we were talking about just before the call, where, say, Del Toro has spent 16 years writing screenplays that don't get made, and there's so much frustration in also, and or directors who get final cut taken away from them even after they've been guaranteed it in their contract, and all these things where the creators can't just create what they want to create in the way they want to create it, and everyone has that frustration. So I think this something like this is the natural evolution. And again, as just to really speak to what Kate's saying, that lots of people want to do certain roles, so probably lots of people want to direct, but we could cap it and make sure that whoever is doing the job has the proper support, so that for them it is a learning, and next time around, whatever they do this time around, they'll definitely grow and they'll do better the next time around, and so on, and that we can support each other in that growth. Because for me, if we just get to keep working, then people get good. It's the fact that we don't get to practice our craft as much as we should that keeps our industry from really taking off. Because I think we have the stories and we have the capacity, definitely, but it's just this thing of how much energy it takes to do the thing that really holds us back, and not having that many opportunities and so on. But this sort of thing would ensure that we do on an ongoing basis, and more could take power into our own hands. But I don't know, it's a very ambitious vision, and I'm absolutely very cynical about it actually happening. So I leave it. So Mbunaseni, the basic project would just be this, that we start off with 22-minute shorts that we could then sell potentially as a series or put together in other ways, or it's episodes for streaming or something. And one would need to do it over like a, say 2 weekends, a 4-day production schedule and 80% in a location that you have access to. And you can have 1 day, 20% to fill that out with exteriors and other things, other locations. And the topic would be a short on COVID craziness, whatever that means to you. And that's kind of the idea. And then we would stagger the development and production and post amongst us so that everyone can find an organic flow with their own very busy life schedules. Yes, so that's the idea. And then should we turn it over? Questions, thoughts, interrogations, laughing out loud, all welcome.
Please not the laughing out loud, guys. No,
understood. I got it. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Mbunaseni. Kate, do you have anything to add to that before we open up the conversation? Okay, great. Okay, so that's pretty much the idea in a nutshell. We think that it's very likely to succeed. I know that it's going to take a bunch of effort. It's going to take commitment. That's probably the most important thing out of anything else, because luckily coming to this with the indie mindset, we know that there's not going to be money. We're going to have access to resources. Now, with that, we know that without those, without the pressure of having to make money or anything, at least now with it, we have access to time. So it is something we're expecting people to, find a way of, juggling with their busy work schedules to be a participant in it. But really, this is a great opportunity to have strength in numbers for your creative voice. Believe me when I say that it's extremely difficult to make films on your own, but it can be a much easier process if you have many hands. And if you feel that this is something that speaks to you, an opportunity for you to create something, to have it be yours, and then to have that go forward as part of a project that you can actually afterwards have on your portfolio, on your CV, and have immediate access to as something that speaks to your vision, your creative voice. And that allows you to be able to make many more things going forward, as it will. Believe me, I can attest to that. Having something that speaks of your voice, even if it's as short as 22 minutes or as long as 22 minutes, it goes a long way for boosting your credibility as a creative voice. So if that speaks to you, definitely now is the opportunity to add what your thoughts are, what your questions might be, and what your queries as to how we can go forward, how those things can be heard out as well. So anyone who wants to would love to jump in, please jump in. I have to give carte blanche about the fact that I have to go in about 4 minutes time. I'm sorry, I have an emergency to deal with, but I will be viewing the recording afterwards to get everyone's feedback. But please, anyone wants to jump in? Oh, Munir, actually, I wanted to actually ask you a question. Is Munir still part of the call? Is he?
Yeah, if you can. I'm here.
Yes. Okay. So, Munir, I know that we spoke about a much shorter, smaller form of this, but how does this sound to you? How does this project sound to you as a producer, as a writer-producer?
So last year during COVID, we have a Cape Town Black Filmmakers group, and I think there's about 200 people on it or something. And we were saying, we should do something like this. We should come up with an idea. And there was a little bit of chatter around it. And I think we formed a little group. I was actually trying to see now, where we were throwing ideas around to do something very similar to this. Maybe not the short film. I think we were trying to get to the feature film. So split it up in between 4 or 5 writers or something like that to write different pieces and then put it together and come up with something. And the group was quite diverse in that it has production managers, you know, it has the entire film industry sort of hierarchy in it. And but it died down. So I am literally trying to find what we discussed there and if we can do it like that, because I know I had the idea to come up with a comedy for something like this, using live events that happened and maybe just recreating it or something like that, because there were a couple of really funny Twitter trending moments during COVID, you know, people waiting outside the bottle store kind of thing from 6 a.m. or the day before, you know. Yeah, so they would just, and I thought that would, like, if we can come up with a concept around it, you know, like follow either the news reporter or something like that, but turn it into a fictional sort of kind of story. And particularly looking, I mean, I'm in Cape Town and across communities, you know, you have the Mitchell's Plain sort of Cape colored community complaining about one thing, and you got the surfers in Muizenberg, you know, apartheid, you know, stopping them from surfing kind of thing. So there's all these, and then you have people literally crying out, begging for food kind of thing. I mean, we did something with Mark Lottering in Mitchell's Plain as well. You know, so the funny man became a serious man kind of thing during this time. Yeah. So I love the idea. I'm really just racking my brain and trying to think, where did I put these notes now? And it's something I definitely would love to be able to be part of. So yeah, I mean, I have my kind of idea in my head already. I just need to find my notes and get cracking on it.
I know I have like a minute to go. I'm just gonna add that I think that's a great idea. The funny man who became the serious man because of COVID. I mean, that's already a film right there. And I like that. I like the fact that, look, I would say with 200 people, yeah, that was always going to be a case of too many chefs in the kitchen. But I think that with this, really what we're seeing in this group over here is the top above the line. Is above the line, and really the project is going to be made and sold on that above the line aspect. So we're lucky not to have 200 people who want to be above the line. We can really just marshal forces.
That's why I'm back here. You know, that's why I'm back here as well. And just listening to the idea, I ask myself the question, is this, I mean, I ask myself as a broadcaster, as a distributor, as a producer, you know, is this something that I can get behind? You know, is it something I'm really going to be wasting my time on actually, and I could just be going off and doing something else? It's not. I mean, I think this is a great concept. I think the idea of the 22 short film, I mean, 22 minutes and then a sort of slight or episodic kind of thing, you know, I'm a bit worried about how those films are all going to be done, you know, like, I mean, yes, the theme is COVID craziness, but yeah, I mean, I'm just a little bit, but I think that will be fleshed out as we go along. But is it something that I can be involved in and that I'm not going to be wasting my time with? Definitely, because I am taking time off, like I said the last time, to be able to write and to do things again. So every minute for me is valuable, and I won't be back here if it's not, you know. And that's why, and even looking today at the group, I mean, it's much smaller, and I guess the serious people are going to be the ones who are going to pitch up every time, and that's, you know, important for me.
Definitely, I agree with you. On that note, I'm sorry I have to run, but I think, Munir, definitely what you've just mentioned right now, I want to work with you. Even though I'm based in Joburg, we'll figure something out. I want to work with you to make this happen. So I'm loving the enthusiasm. I think this is really the bedrock for the entire project. You know, us being people who can see the value in it. And I really want everyone to see it like that. Believe me when I say trying to make things for yourself, trying to make films, it takes many, 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 many opportunities to get it right. So what we're saying is we think with this project, it could be an incredible start for you as a creative, not as you as a producer, you as a DOP, you as perhaps even someone who's a distributor, but you as a creative voice. And remember that our entire industry is based on the strength of creative voices. So this I really want you to see this as an opportunity for you to create something that speaks of for you and of you, and present it to the entire world as your own thing. And I think that we will definitely find a way of bringing quality to that through you presenting it, and we're workshopping it together, developing it and figuring it out, but still keeping your voice and then making the thing. That I think you should not fear that. We have enough professionals over here to make that happen. So on that note, I am going to say goodbye for now, but I will catch up with you guys soon. I'm definitely going to watch the recording and take notes down, and then we'll be able to move forward from there. But Gavin and Kate are going to definitely continue the conversation and move forward. So I really want people to ask as many questions as possible. Get these answered now. Thank you very much, everyone.
Cheers. And Munir, I also just wanted to speak to that. I just also say hello to Brent, who's also a long-term friend and collaborator of mine. And I'm glad he could be here. And he was also a bit cynical about the possibilities of this sort of working out, mirroring my own. But Munir, two things sort of came to mind. So one, if we do this, I think it would need to be driven by kind of an independent filmmaker mindset, where every person is someone who's principally responsible for the short. If it's not to write a director, then it's the director or whoever it is has to be that person who's willing. It's their thing, and they're going to take it through to the end. And in terms of making the pieces consistent, my guess would be that if we create that overarching topic of COVID craziness, and then emphasize that this is a diverse perspective from a diverse group of South Africans, then like shows, I think the Twilight Zone did this a bit, where you can you've got a broad theme, but then you can dive into such varied stories and even varied genre of story, as long as if they in that broad container. One could be a satire, one could be drama, and one could be a horror. I really would love to see, oh god, there's this unknown force out there that we're all very scared of. So yeah, I guess that for me is what could make it consistent, that it doesn't matter what voice people have and where they want to take it. Those 22 minutes, contained location and broad theme, and then viewers would, with the marketing, I guess, know that they're in for a variety of flavor. Okay, who else has questions, comments, thoughts? Is anyone, partly, let me ask the question, maybe we can also type it into the box. Is anyone feeling like they definitely wouldn't want to do this? And, or is there anyone who feels that? Don't be afraid. It is, again, everything is welcome.
Also, perhaps you might not want to be the writer or director. Maybe you just want to be part of the production. So if you're feeling like writing and directing is going to be a step too far at this point, but you would like to be in the project, yeah, I don't want to scare people off.
I want to ask the same thing. So first I want to see what the level of interest and involvement is. And I guess that was a question to try and gauge that. And then I guess I'll want to see people just write in what roles they do want, and see how many writers we've got, how many writer directors, how many just directors, or otherwise, people want to be doing producing or anything else. But just, okay, so I'm taking, there's been no, definitely nots. So I'm assuming, unless told otherwise, that everyone, except obviously Brent and Jessica, don't know exactly where we are because they just tuned in. But everyone else, if I've not heard from you, I'm assuming you are interested, because I really am gauging whether it's worth going forward on this or not. And I'm only really keen if everyone really is keen, and then we can give it our best bash. And again, I'll do everything I can to make sure scripts are of good quality and make lots of space for that to support people in it.
Gavin and group, sorry
yes.
to interject.
Please do.
Hi, Kate. It's lovely to see you. Wow, man, I haven't spoken to you in such a long time, and I think, Kate, actually, it's lovely to be starting off speaking on, just kind of seeing you again and having this opportunity to speak in this sort of forum with different writers, because I think that's part of the the attraction for wanting to sort of to respond to your call, Gavin, mainly is because I suppose I value and I sort of embrace the idea of just speaking with a group of writers again. It's very nice. And because I'm sort of working outside of the industry and teaching, and so the opportunity to have this kind of conversation feels amazing. So, but I do feel a kind of a 2 or 3 steps behind the thrust of what you're speaking about. So I mean, I can't even think about. I mean, I suppose, yeah, I can sort of think about sort of putting pen to paper. That's as much as I can think about right now. But I really do feel like I'd need a lot more clarity in terms of sort of this project, and I'm getting a bit of what you've spoken to now, and it sounds very exciting. But in terms of the concrete practicalities, yeah.
Let me nutshell it for you, because it has kind of been spoken, and I will make this recording available tomorrow. I will put it online and let people see what they missed, because also with load shedding and so on, we're much less than we expected under our normal group.
I just want to say something. Don't feel that you have to now sort of pull me in, because it might just, because the group's now got to now rehear that.
I'll take 2 minutes. Don't worry, I'll take 2 minutes, because Tenjus also just joined and missed it, and it is just 2 minutes. Will tell you what you need to know, and not everyone is beating down the comments at the moment. So basically, the idea would be almost like a much more flexible version of the 48-hour film festival, where instead of taking 2 days to develop, produce, and shoot, we take our time to develop, take like 3 months. And the goal would be like to have a 2 weekend shoot, a 4-day shoot that you can break up into 2 weekends, 3 days in a principal location that you have to have access to, 80% of the film basically there, and then 1 day to shoot elsewhere. We will share resources amongst the group. So in this group, there is people who have offered equipment to have access to it. There's basically everyone here is either a writer, director, writer, producer, or writer, actor, or all the above, or some combination thereof. And we all have fairly wide networks in the industry, all fairly established. We would also have 2 weeks, if we agree to it, to rope in other collaborators. And probably we can find a few extra writers to write shorts with people if we need to have some carrots to bring in, so DOPs or whoever else might need, a carrot to be included. And yeah, the topic is COVID craziness, 22 minutes, because thereafter then we could sell it either as a series, or we could, depending on the quality of the final things, maybe turn the best 5 into a 4-room sort of thing and stream the rest, or combinations thereof. That's the nutshell.
And then I just want to add as well that part of the development process is going to be like a writer's room, where we get to sort of pitch ideas and get to brainstorm ideas and get feedback and input on those as well, because we really want the scripts to be as strong as possible. And I mean, I've got a number of ideas of a story that I want to tell, and I want to pitch those and hear what resonates with other people. Because something, obviously there will all be stories that resonate with me, but maybe the one I decide to go with is one that I would like to have input on that before I go down that line and find nobody else is resonating with it. So I don't know what you think about that, Gavin.
Yes, no, definitely. I mean, so yeah, I would like to hold a workshop for that exact purpose. So basically, at the idea stage, I would like to give everyone time to really sit with them to make sure it's as good an idea as can be. And yeah, as a group, we can workshop it. And along the way, I really want to create space to have feedback. I mean, we will turn these calls then into, on the theme of where we're at in the project. But I will, in additionally, especially depending on how many people we have, I would like to make room to really give each person real time for troubleshooting problems, things, look at each project and be able to get proper feedback. Yeah, so that I think that's part of what excites me, because then we can grow together and collectively come up and ensure that, the idea is really high quality. and hopefully then and we would do the same also when we get into production, Brent and Tenjusva. So there are directors here and other folk who can support if one doesn't have a strong directing background, or if one doesn't have locations, we can build a locations database between us if everyone has easily loanable locations that aren't an inconvenience, or etc. You know, we can build a lot of support through the group throughout, and yeah. Anyone else?
Hi, Gav. Hello. Sorry, I've been listening in the car. Actually, it's been so lovely. It was the best drive from my studio home. Sorry, everybody. It's just wanted to quickly touch base before I left. And Gav, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ring off. But it's so exciting listening. And yeah, I suppose nobody knows me yet, so it's difficult to explain the context. But it sounds fantastic. And Kate, to speak to that idea of collaboration, I mean, it really is so beautiful when you can mentor each other. I mean, I work with a lot of friends of mine who in the industry like Gav who've mentored me through my projects, and like the two films I've recently done, I laugh at how much of it was just incredible mentorship, and people really do kind of come to you. It's quite beautiful once you just trust yourself. As a new director, it's amazing who will come and participate, whether it's a producer friend or another writer friend or another director friend. But you just sometimes also just have to trust that, you know, instinctively it's your project, and, you know, don't hand it over. Really, like, now's the time to unleash the director within you and have that support. But I think we often get scared in that last minute and we say, oh, I'll just stick with what I'm good at. And I think, you know, I'm encouraged more and more to say, well, if we are in a great collaboration, you know, this is the time where we are able to grow because we are supported by a great collaborative and mentorship. And that's the way we're going to grow as an industry, you know, and it really is the only way we're going to grow. So Gav, Gav and I have been spirited with this since we wanted to do picture book media many years ago. We wanted our film family. I'm a lecturer. I collaborate and I build mentorship programs, and I've been mentored. So I know that you can't do it alone. And so Gav, yeah, just fantastic. And sorry I have to ring off. I just wanted to just say, and it's not a negative, it's just a little like thing in my back of my head. We did lockdown projects. In fact, one of them is streaming on YouTube, and they went quite far with Netflix as a platform, and they were quite interested in taking the episodes. But then there was a big shutdown around that they wouldn't accept anything around lockdowns. I don't know if that's COVID related, but I don't know if that's even related to the local market. But they kind of on those platforms were like, we're not putting anything forward that has anything to do with COVID. They were quite sort of. So I don't know if that's. I just thought I'd share that with you. And
That's a very good point. And something, I mean, essentially, there's a massive amount of censorship going on around the issue, one or another, and it's obviously very contentious. So it might mean that if we were to release these, we'd need to find an alternative platform and do it direct to consumer. But that's exactly, I think, one reason why I'd like to do something like this, because lots of people would respond to the material, but it's being, you know, again, film is partly the way it is because it's a power-based medium. It is propaganda. It's shaping people's perceptions. So it is very tightly controlled and top down. And I guess for me, that's also being contentious and being, you know, emotional has never been bad for a film. You know, it's generally, if people are stirred up by it, that's great advertising. So I think it's both a challenge and an opportunity.
And no doubt, Gav, with the way it sounds, you know, one doesn't have to hit on the head. COVID craziness could be just absorbing like other issues, like mental issues, or, you know, the idea of having to like get into Stockfell, which a lot of us did because that, you know, so it doesn't necessarily have to, you know, hit. And I think with ours, the problem was that it was a lockdown project, so the quality of filming was. Well, yeah, everyone was filming from their home. So as you said, the maintaining the quality as the other gentleman was speaking about would be important for the integrity. And I think that's where our lockdown didn't work. I know, I'm sure some of you know of Tim who did his as well. They're great, but they weren't managed over with one sort of like somebody overseeing and making sure that there was a kind of continuity and an overall integrity. And also it was lockdown. So I also feel like lockdown was a limited period. So perhaps you know, I'm speaking out of turn, but it just, as you said, that I just wanted to share that, and I'll get more information. But it was interesting why they went so far in the process, and it was American Netflix, not South African Netflix, that loved it, and then it just sort of right at the last stage, it didn't progress. So I thought I'll get that information for you. But yeah,
Very nice to hear. Thank you for sharing.
but thank you, thanks, Gav. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me on the call.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you for your words of encouragement. I really, really appreciate it, Tamara. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Kate, anytime. And as I say, I teach actors and I work with acting. If you ever needed someone with performance, I would absolutely be there to support you in it. So that's already one person who's can help you in terms of finding actors or performances. There you go.
Yay.
Thank
Thank
you. Okay.
Okay, does anyone else have a comment, or otherwise I'm going to ask if everyone would maybe just put into the text box what role they would want to do in this. Do we, like, is everyone here a writer? Is my first question. How many writers do we have who would be keen to create a 20-minute short on this call? For this, obviously.
I'll start and put it in the chat box. I'm going to start and put it in. I see Inez also got a question.
Was that in the saying she's also writing, wanting to write?
I mean, I can say it out loud. So I was just thinking now when Tamron was speaking, it was interesting to hear her talking about potentially being denied, I guess, a distribution platform based off of the content of lockdown, potentially. And I think, like, I mean, I'm just digesting this for the first time. I missed the first session, but I'm coming from it as an actor and a writer. And I think thinking about how we use COVID as a container versus just having that as our story is going to be pretty interesting in this project. I've been thinking about anthology series a lot lately, and how they can really allow us the space to create something around character more specifically, or something around, you know, a particular issue, but giving us that container of we are in one location, or we only have these specific characters, there's only 2 people and they can't go anywhere, allows us, I guess, to shed some of the anxieties around how we're placing a story. And that has helped me a lot in my writing process to keep those details as simple as possible. So I'm really interested in this project. And I think from my perspective, my initial reaction to it is to say, I am a writer, but I would be interested in filling pretty much any position that would have me. Because I think this kind of study of collaboration is a really cool way to get ourselves out there. So thanks, guys, for putting this project forward.
Awesome, thank you for sharing that. I must also just mention, because you raised something, sorry, I've got someone outside doing super loud construction, and how loud that is in the call. For me, I've also got a lot of experience in trying to create low-budget films in very contained locations with a few characters. We all have that, like, as a first director, trying to create something like that. And I've got a lot of experience with doing them and how to do them at this point, because they're actually very challenging to do well. But that's where I'm also looking forward to supporting people with their ideas, because I really have, at this point, quite a lot of ability to create very good contained stories and to support others to do the same.
Gavin, you have no volume.
Thank you, that would help. Sorry, the construction folk again. Lundeka, what is your usual hat? Are you a writer already? Okay. Sorry, by production, is that, can you be more specific? Is that production manager, or is it sets? Okay, okay, oh, awesome. I'm very glad someone in the group is, because as when it comes to figuring out logistics, we're really going to need some support there. Okay, cool. Okay. Okay. So any other, I would love to, yeah, just I guess get some more feedback and thoughts and concerns and whatever else if anyone has.
Gavin, I was just wondering, I mean, what's the potential of, and I think that this, and I don't mean for this to negate the sort of the seeding of your idea, but what's the potential of sort of filtering out fewer projects, sort of, or sort of identifying a script within a few that you then kind of take when you go, well, this is something that has sort of legs, you know, not to negate the other projects. How I'm speaking about this might sound a bit sort of ruthless, and I absolutely don't mean for that to be the case. But I mean, I'm just wondering sort of the quantity. I mean, you sort of wanting to make sort of 5 or 7 films, but with all of the resources, if you were to pour those into a few that you identify and go like, you know what, we're going to give this priority, or we're going to sort of certainly in sort of moving forward in terms of our timeline, we're going to focus on sort of 1 or 2, because I don't know if my idea of making a film is a big thing. I mean, I'm making a film, I suppose you can shoot a film over a short period of time and get something of merit and quality, right? I suppose you could do that. And I suppose, as is evidenced by the 48-hour festival, you get great product out of many films being made. And that's, I suppose that is a model to go. I just thought about that. Oh, wow, you could also then, you know, use all of this resource, these wonderful writers, directors, performers, DOPs, lighting designers, sound, and like put your energies into one as some sort of a pilot or something, and then just make something very good, and then use that as a calling card and sell that. So I don't know. I mean, that's just an idea.
No, thank you very much again for interrogating, because this is what we need, you know, because again, it's an organic, it would have to be an organic process and flow, but these things would come up. Like, what if some people before, you know, just have terrible stories at the end of the process, and one, you know, what in some people have very excellent stories. I expect that there would be, you know, all those things. I like the idea of, there's a few reasons. So one reason I'd love to give, I was thinking like of capping it at about 15 projects. And one reason is because partly the real motivation for this at the core is collaboration and helping one another to find a new model for making where it's collaboratively driven. And the more people we have who have a real stake in it, you know, we have films that they want to make, potentially the wider the network of skills and things we can attract in. And because also from the group there is the resources to at least get them made if it's very contained and easy to make, you know, that we could be shooting, you know, different people in the group could be shooting with the same resources over like a 3-month period. And if we had a 3-month development period, there's lots of time for people to get the scripts good, or as good as can be. The difference between the 48-hour festival is that, you know, again, you've got these good groups, also mostly professional, some semi, some amateur, but they've got such a contained time to do it, you know, that it's just immediately first thought story, first thing, and then you edit, and you get some really fun ones, and the good teams come up with like some fairly nice films that come out of it. but the pressure and the time makes it all much more of a fun exercise rather than a professional exercise. But if you give those same professionals lots of time to figure out what they're going to shoot, to plan the shoot, and then sure, they've got 4 days, but it's for a 22-minute script, which means 5 to 6 pages a day. If my maths is not terrible, it is terrible. 6 to 7 minutes, 6 to 7 pages a day. It's enough time if you're in a contained location, contain characters, to do good shooting, to have takes. And then if you're not rushing through post, then you really can do, I think, good work. So if we had 15, I'm thinking 15 because it would be easier to sell a series that had a whole bunch of episodes than it would be to sell 2 or 3 good shorts, which always doesn't really have its own thing, because an audience can invest in 15 things on a subject. But 2 or 3 shorts is always, okay, maybe it doesn't, you can't really sell the whole thing. It's just individual shorts that get very lost. That's why I was kind of, I think somewhere, I guess, between 10 and 15.
Yeah, I hear you.
Anything else? Okay, then I'm going to just muse aloud, because from what I see, we have enough to make it worthwhile. And everyone does want to be involved. I'd certainly give my heart to a project like this if it's, if I'm getting energy back, and it seems that there is. So I think for me, and this is where I'm putting it to the group, what would the next step be? And I guess I would like to make this recording available for the people in the guild who weren't able to make it today, or past contributors who weren't able to make it today. And then perhaps create a little online survey that asks people these questions, what they want to do, and also are they willing to put in what to the pot, whether it's locations, or I can access actors, or I can help with the selling, or I can help figure out the logistics, or whatever it is. And then, as I say, let people also have a chance that if they want to rope people in, that there is some room to do that. We would need to also kind of limit participation in terms of writers, directors. I mean, it seems like we will, and certainly we'll find enough writers. That doesn't seem to be a problem, given that we are the Writers Guild. And then see how many carrots are available, because I'm interested to see, pretty much everyone I ever meet wants to be a writer director. So it's interesting to see those who are happy to just be writers. So there would be a few carrots for others, and also maybe a lot of actors also like to try their hand at directing, so on. So perhaps for me, that's the next way forward, is just to then get a list of resources and a list of who wants to. And I think everyone who's made it today, I'd like to give them, that you will do what you have asked to do. And then we can see about how many to sort of flesh up to. Does that make sense? Thoughts, suggestions, help?
What do you think of, once we're sort of, I think that make the recording public, have a questionnaire. I think that's a very good way of taking it forward, the next 1 and 2 steps. And then a bit further down the line, potentially we could even have, what do you think of having a Facebook group which everybody joins onto, and then, because that worked really well with Tim Green's lockdown project.
I'd probably be more in favor of Telegram group, because I'm very rare on Facebook. But yes, definitely to then create a group for the project. Sorry, what was the other thing again?
No, just that was it. Just because also actors were able to sort of pitch themselves and do a little so and so, and this is what I can do, and so that was very good. They brought a lot of actors into the room through them being able to access.
Yeah, well, certainly. I mean, it's great now. I mean, this is the great opportunity we have now, is that one, the tools are really available for us that can support collaboration. And given the lockdown state of our industry, etc., there does seem to be, yeah, hunger for people to get together and start doing it. So I'd be excited to do those things. Anyone else?
Gavin, sorry, I'll go after the person who wants to talk.
No, I was just saying I've got mine on mute because it's Bark Central here at home. So I'm going to keep my mic off.
So apologies, so my kids are in the background. Gab, so I'm imagining that the pool of actors that you, or the pool of collaborators that you bring into it, they all sort of, they would be enrolled into the idea that you have, that it's sort of, that they're sharing, and there's a sort of a build-in of a product with a shared goal, right? So you're not necessarily offering payment or sort of an actor, you identify an actor that you really like, so they, they're not going to get like a sort of a rate for their time that they come on board, because you would like that person who's come on board to, in terms of the vision for the project, you like them to sort of be on board with that, right? I'm imagining
look,
that that's the way you're going.
That is my guesstimate of the best way to go. It's essentially, I think we need to create a form of collaborative ownership. So whoever plays whatever role gets a value ultimately back to them that's fair for whatever role they played. And but if we have 10, 15 great scripts and we have producers here, maybe they can raise a little bit of money for actors or something, or for things that we can't trade for. But I guess the ideal would be to make it a collaborative platform where everyone who participates has ownership, or some share of ownership of the work. And then if we can sell it, it can come back. But if not, then no one has lost money. And we're not asking anyone to put in money. It's like 48-hour festival. It's just you put in your time. But at the end, maybe we can sell it and maybe we can make money, which would be the goal. Like for me, I mean, that would be entirely the point, that we can create a way where we do make money off the project. It won't be upfront, but then we'll have ownership of the project and have, if it's good quality, like the best chance of getting a good rate for it. But then, I mean, the whole point is that, we're so crippled by having to wait for money in order to make projects that so few of us are making as much as we should be. So for me, the whole goal is to create a model where we can just make, but that will, but one would need to, like any startup, you have to invest first in the time and in doing the product, and then maybe you can sell. And unless you've got some angel willing to pay, that means you're trade and putting in your own time. Ines?
Hi, I have a question, I guess, about the extent of collaboration with regards to the writing. I don't know if it has been discussed yet how exactly we would get started on that. I don't know if it would be more something along the line of us, I guess, bringing ideas at a writer's room, like Kate suggested earlier, and sort of pitching them as a start, or if it would be more of a super collaborative effort of getting together and kind of conceptualizing in a group. Yeah, I don't know if any thought has been given to that yet.
Very good question. Thank you. It's just these details that it really helps me to tease out. So I guess the way I had it in mind was that the former option would be like the way to go. That essentially, I would like, it needs to be that whoever's writing this is kind of your film. And then there's support that you can make the best film. So I would assume that those 15 writers, the idea is that we help them to tell their story, that their voices. And yeah, so I would suggest everyone goes away and comes up with like 4 or 5 ideas that they're excited about. And then we do a big workshop and we workshop the ideas and we help them pick the idea that they'll do. And then we'll go off and flesh out that idea and then maybe come back and again workshop the developed idea, and then leave people to do their first draft and then come back and help them workshop that sort of thing.
Okay, cool.
Anyone else? Kate?
No, I don't have anything at this point to contribute. I'm happy to see how we can start taking this forward and bring some more people on board.
Well, yes, I'm just seeing Munir's run out and his thing. I'll do that. Okay. So then we're almost out of time. So we normally finish at 1:30, but I don't know that there's anything else to say. So I'm just going to suggest that, okay, so tomorrow I will make this recording public. I will write down a list of who was here and who wanted to do what. And Kate, I'll maybe speak to you about that. Do you have any experience with those, like those online survey type things that we would use? Okay, we'll figure that out. And is there any other step that I should be taking immediately? Because then I will maybe just give space between now and the next call for this to filter around and then see, you know, in the next call where we're at. Because I was also going to say when we do kind of know who's there and what projects or that, I mean, because now that we know that we're going to do it, because that seems to be the consensus, then we have some time now also to rope in other people who are interested. So particularly to this core group, I would say, you know, speak to whichever friends you think would benefit and be interested in doing something like this, ideally with different skills and so on. But particularly if there's a few who are really high value, who want to write something or direct something, you know, and maybe bring them to the next call, or certainly pass on the recording and pass on the survey. And then, yeah, we will touch base, I guess, in 2 weeks and see where we're at.
Yeah, and I think we should give ourselves, I think, Gavin, that we should give more than 2 weeks to bring people on board, for the word to get out and for it to catch fire, and for, you know, so maybe by the end of November, we know who are the project participants, kind of thing, so that if it, you know, just for the information to get out to everybody, for it to, I don't want us to start and then suddenly a whole lot of people go, but wait, we wanted to be on board, and then they've been, am I being,
No, I'm with you. I kind of, just to clarify, I kind of sort of imagined, yeah, between the next call would just be a little step, another, like, okay, now let's see how many and what's going on, and a check-in. But yes, definitely we need more space before we finalize anything. And I also, you know, am super pressured, so time-wise, to maybe write down, put the thing up, it's going to take me a little bit of time, surveys and so on. So yeah, let's give it an organic, a nice window, and just allow this next phase to, yeah, we'll put those out, like a few people down. And maybe I'll also, if people will, is everyone here on the Telegram group? The Writers Guild Telegram group? Brent, you might not be. But everyone else, anyone saying no? Because we can already, I guess, start like a core Telegram group, and perhaps if people just put their numbers in, we can add you very easily. If everyone's on the Telegram group, then I can probably just make it through that, I assume. If not, we'll send around an email to the list. Let's do that. Okay, anything to add, Kat, before we call it?
see Brent's operators.
Hello, Brent's kids. Okay, it seems everyone's on the group. I'm not seeing any no's. Okay, so I guess that's my kickoff. If there's any objections, speak now, or in a minute I will say goodbye and end the call. Okay, then let's call it. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Kate. And,
Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, everybody who came and joined us today, and everybody who's excited about the idea.
Thank you. We are interested. We are in. Great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, cool, guys. Be well.
Right, everybody. See you soon.